the Board BIA Quality Mark, ensuring your food is produced to the highest standards of traceability and care for the environment.
Hello and welcome to Nevan's Irish Food Trails, and welcome on board the Shannon Princess, which is my home for the series. The hotel barge is based in Loughrea, and as the loch is right in the centre of Ireland, it's the perfect place from which to explore the country. Today my food trails take me to West Cork to visit one of Ireland's tiny number of knife makers. They're a very rare breed. Then it's on to Manus Bay to taste oysters and a magnificent turbot at Blair's Cove House. But first I'm going to Castletownbere to go crab fishing with father and son team Richard and Ryan Murphy of Shellfish Ireland. Ryan, good morning. What a gorgeous day.
Beautiful day. Beautiful.
How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Pleased to meet you.
Good to see you. Can I get on board?
You, come on board.
In all my years chefing in my kitchen and on the television shows, this is my first time fishing for crab. I love crab meat, the white crab meat, the brown crab meat, and also the shells that you can make a bisque from. I'm here on Richard and Ryan's boat. We're actually going to catch some crab, which is just absolutely very, very special for me. Ryan, it's lovely to be on the boat. You know, your dad is here driving it yourself. It's really a family business, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's a great family business. It started in 1987 with my father and his friend, going fishing in the morning and supplying restaurants in the afternoon in the local West Cork area. And then they started exporting shrimp into France and Spain. They expanded into a factory, exporting further afield to Asia. Then we expanded into a 20,000 square foot factory in Shellfish Ireland. A lot of it would go to France, Spain and Portugal, and they really like the Irish crab, the Irish shrimp, the Irish velvet crab.
And your scallops, I've used them.
Scallops in Castletownbere are really known for their good size and good taste.
This is the season now for the brown crab, isn't it?
This is the main season for the brown crab, yeah. The season starts in April or May and keeps going till December or January even sometimes.
Shellfish Ireland, that's the name of it.
Yes, the main products are your crab, prawns, scallops, shrimp. We have a mussel farm as well, and we do about 500 tonne a year. And that mussels goes to Ireland, but also is exported to France.
Castletownbere is behind us.
Castletownbere is just there, yeah.
And how far do we have to go out now and we get the crab?
Just down to the lighthouse below, if you can see it, down to the Roan Carrig.
Okay. Just throw that over on the rail on the other side.
That has the string in position.
Gotcha. Yes. Put the fish in there. Yeah. Oh, they're alive. Look at that. I can't get over the weight of them. You wouldn't even bringing them up by hand, huh?
No.
It's a hard life.
And they used to before, years ago, like.
So in season, you do this every day?
Every day, about
Come out here.
6 days a week, you would
Wow.
say, if the weather lets you. You can see just in the cage, you see, look?
Yes.
It's open here and then it's flat, so they can't crawl back out.
It's not very clever. So there would have been herring in this and they've eaten them.
Yeah, all gone.
So they're well fed.
Are we ready to go shooting, so?
Yeah.
Throw them back.
Take down the next one, okay?
Watch the rope, yeah.
Yep. That's brilliant.
That one, yeah. Anchor.
Brilliant. That's it.
Same thing every day.
I thought cooking was a hard job. Fair play.
How you would cook the crab at home is you would put it in your fridge for an hour or two just to put it to sleep first. Once it goes to sleep, you'd put it into boiling water with salt inside in the water, and you'd cook it for 15-20 minutes. And then you would take it out and put it in cold water just to cool it down so you can prepare your crab. Or else inside in the factory, what we do is we put the crab into the freezer to put it to sleep for 2 hours, and then we would put it into the cooker and it would be cooked over the space of an hour and cool down, and then it would be processed.
While we were out in the boat with your dad, I noticed him putting smaller crabs back in. Why was that?
The story there is that Shellfish Ireland are part of the Origin Green programme with Bord Bia. It's basically to lessen the impact your company is having on the environment. So one of the target areas that we have with Origin Green is that we would increase the landing size of the crab. So legally you're allowed to land 130 mil and above crab, but we are working on having more fishermen landing 150 mil or more above, so there'll be more crab next year, so it helps the reproductivity of the whole crab.
It helps the whole stock levels too,
Yes,
doesn't
correct,
it?
yeah.
And what size would this be?
This would be about 160 or 70 mil.
Okay, so this is in the water. What's the next stage of this now?
The next stage of this now is you take it out, and we will take the claws and leg off it, just a twist, and your 2 claws will come off, and then with the legs.
Is this done by hand in the factory?
All done by hand in the factory, yeah. We would do definitely 20 or 30 tonne on a daily basis. We did 1.4 million kilos of crab last year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we will do the body part first.
Okay.
You get your 2 fingers in the back of the crab and you push it up and out she comes. Pull it out slowly. So here then you have things called dead man's fingers. Discard of that, no good.
Okay.
The easiest thing here is if you slice it down the middle.
Big knife.
So you have your brown meat and your white meat. So you could use the back of a spoon or anything kind of small and pointy to take all the meat out. It's kind of a slow process.
And all done by hand, no machine can do this?
All done by hand over here, yes.
Do people buy crabs whole?
Yes, a lot of people buy whole crab in Ireland, so there's more and more people buying it every year, so they seem to be getting more and more educated on what to do. You can't keep the juice if you want for an old fish stock or something. That's some more meat. So what we'll do now for dressing crab is...
I'd say you've dressed many crabs in your time.
A
have you?
few, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like to eat crab yourself?
Yeah, I love crab, yeah. I'd have it about once a week. So that's your shell ready for your crab. So then we'll do the claws.
You snap them.
So we've all your nice lumpy claw meat here.
Yeah. Is that the knuckle you call that? No.
That's the knuckle then, yeah.
So right, with all the shell that you've left, do you do anything with that?
A crab shell would be a big waste factor for us, but at the moment, in conjunction with Origin Green and Bord Bia, we're trying to find a useful, sustainable resource for the crab shell. So instead of paying to get rid of it, that we can use it as a resource and sell it hopefully someday, like as a fertilizer for golf courses or something. Or if cadmium is a high percentage in the shell of the crab meat, so if we can find a way of extracting the cadmium, it could be used in the pharmaceutical industry.
You're going to utilise every single part of the crab?
Yeah.
On the back of the knife again?
Back of the knife or a rolling pin, whatever's handiest. So that's all the meat from the crab toe. So the only part we won't forget about is the legs, because there's plenty of meat in the leg as well.
Is there?
So we tap that slightly, break off, and you have a nice bit of meat in there as well. So here we have our white meat and our brown meat. We have our cleaned crab shell. So we'll dress the crab, just chop up the brown meat a little bit, and do the white meat a little bit.
You don't want to cut it too small, you don't. You want nice.
No, you want the lumps,
the big lumps.
You know?
Yeah.
So we'll put the white meat on either side here. Put the brown meat in the middle, if we can. Lemon juice and black pepper.
A little bit black pepper. Do you like to eat it like this yourself?
I do, yeah. No, I'd have it at home that way.
What about your dad? Is he a
You're
fan?
natural.
Is he a fan?
He does, he likes crab, right? He's reared up on it. He don't taste
From a young age, exactly. I'm going to taste it.
Yeah.
That is so delicious. It's sweet, soft, beautifully cooked. Ryan, thank you so much for bringing me out crab fishing, for cooking the crab well from start to finish to your dad. I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
Ballylickey in West Cork, close to Glengarriff, is my next destination, to meet knife maker Rory Connor.
Hello.
Rory, how are you?
How are you doing?
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So looking forward to seeing you, my
Good,
knife.
good,
I've
good,
heard
good.
so many great things about you.
So would you like to see it now?
Of course I would.
There you go.
Can I open it?
Yeah.
It's your own name and all
Yeah.
crafted on it. And my name on it.
Yeah, I thought that might be a nice finishing touch.
And you spelled it right.
I did, and that way it won't go walking.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, so that's with a stainless steel blade, stainless steel bolster, bog oak, handle here, and a bit of cream corian to make it look like a pint of stout.
So you can drink it too.
Yeah, well.
So tell me the whole process of making a knife. How do you make something like this?
Okay, the first thing you'd need would be a piece of stainless steel like this and your pattern. So I would take my pattern and I would clamp it onto this piece of steel here, and then I would use a scriber, which I've just made this out of an old file. It's just really, really sharp, pointy. Then once this is clamped, I would scribe all around the edge like that. Take that away, and I should be able to see a very nice outline of what's going to be the oyster knife. Then I take it to the bandsaw and start cutting. Then I would take the rough piece of steel and I would start grinding the remains of the steel away, right down to the line. So I'd end up with a shape like this. I'd put in my holes for putting the various pieces of the handle. If you can imagine here, this is the one I'm working on at the moment for somebody else. So I'd have stainless steel pins going in the 3 places here. So the whole thing is bolted together. It's very, very strong.
And Rory, is this just stainless steel or what is it?
That's a particular kind of stainless steel that you can harden. So the hardening process basically involves taking this blade, heating it up to about 1,000 degrees centigrade, and then cooling it quickly. Then the steel is hard, and after that they do a tempering, which is a kind of a baking, if you like, that toughens the steel. So that comes back to me like that.
Okay.
I start polishing, and I keep polishing with the different types of mop that I have until I get this nice, really, really bright, shiny. This is all one piece of metal, so it makes it extra strong. It's, there's a lot of torquing when you're opening your oysters because you're kind of trying to get the blade into the oyster to cut that little muscle. So it's a really good idea to have the knife really, really, really strong. In fact, more strong than you ever need it to be. When all that's done, I'll start to fit the bolster pieces. I'll just line these up and drill down through them, put more pins through, and I'll rivet off with my ball peen hammer. That's the centre of the hammer, so I've polished it, yeah. After those 2 pieces are on, I trim them down to the edges of the knife, so you'd end up with something looking like that.
And then you put your wood on.
Then I go and put the wood on, and the wood is glued on with epoxy resin and pins. You're never quite sure with bog oak what you're going to get. You cut it open and you could get nothing. It could end up being bog yew, it could be actually pine, but you won't know until it actually dries out. There might be rocks inside it, there could be anything in it.
So it's like a piece of history, isn't it?
It is like a piece of history.
And do you use other different types of woods apart
Yes,
from
I
bog?
do. I have lots and lots of kinds of woods.
I've never seen that before on the top of an oyster knife.
Yeah, this just tiny little bevel, it's just a little bit of sharpness at the end, so when you actually go into the oyster, it just nips the muscle and it opens perfect.
Beautiful.
Also, what I've done here is I've actually rounded a radius the sides. You notice that they're not sharp. That's actually to make it a little bit stronger. So by actually rounding the edges, it allows it to flex far, far easier, and that means it should last forever and ever.
There's great grip to it.
If you look at the grip, you see it swells out at the back. And the idea was that it fits into the palm of your hand very, very nicely. I got that idea from a guy who was a champion oyster knife. He had the Guinness Book of Records from opening oyster knives.
So Rory, this here now, is that nearly finished? Or
That's very
what's
close
next
to
it?
finishing
Okay.
now. The next stage on that one is to actually start sanding on the handle. So that's all the epoxy set. So I'm ready to go with that. So if you're interested or if you'd like to see it, I'm happy to show you.
I'd love to. And you have a, do you have a machine to do that? by
Yeah,
hand?
I do. I have a grinder over there. That's it in the rough now.
You keep turning it.
You got to keep turning and keep checking, keep seeing how's it going, where are you at with it. The next thing after that is more sanding, fitting the bolt that goes in here, then a little bit more sanding, and then you start polishing. Do your final cleanup, you put on the maker's name and maybe the name of the person who is going to own it, that'll be you. Then you sharpen it.
I have to ask you about sharpening knives,
Yeah.
you know, because we use knives as chefs. Like, how do you recommend, or any tips?
Basically, there are to be 2 different kinds of sharpening. There'll be the kind of more dressing of the edge, that'll be with the butcher's steel. One of the tricks with the butcher's steel is to give it a very good wash in boiling water and soap. That's basically to degrease it. You'll find the steel will actually work much, much better. If you haven't got anything, you can use the back of another knife. I usually pick on the bread knife, the poor bread knife.
Really?
I do, yeah. And it will work. You'll get some kind of an edge out of it.
Rory, how did you become a knife maker or a cutler?
One time I was in Eason's in Cork City and I saw this magazine, and in there was an interview with a guy who made knives. I came home here and I said, you know what, I'll try myself to start making knives. So I did. I started away by myself. I used to get old car springs, cut them up with a hacksaw, and then I used to get a file and file everything down by hand. Then I had some old pieces of mahogany. My mother had an old table thrown away, so I used the top of that table and I used that for handles. So then I sort of got this idea, is if I wrote to some of these knife making guys in America and maybe they'd let me come out and visit and I could work in their workshop and learn a bit more about making knives. This one guy eventually replied to me from California. And so I borrowed the money and I ended up staying there 3 months. I really got a pretty good grounding in the more custom end of knife making. So then I came back here and I started making away myself.
And how many other cutlers like you are there in Ireland?
There are 3 of us, as far as I know. We've got Fingal Ferguson, who you uses some of his products in your restaurant already. He's a very good knife maker. And I have another friend, Paul Donlan, up in Galway, who makes a lot of hunting knives and things like that.
So there are only 3 people in Ireland that make knives by hand.
That's right.
Listen, I can't wait to use my oyster knife. I have such respect for what you do, and when I'm using that oyster knife, I'll be thinking of you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Board Bia quality mark, ensuring your food is produced to the highest standards.